Telecaster lovers on Facebook. I thought I'd do a little video today. A lot of times I'm getting a lot of emails and messages from people asking me about jazz on a Telecaster, and so I thought I would make a little video here and share some of my things that I've learned over the time playing Telecasters and trying to get a nice warm jazz sound with one. So what this guitar is it's a Fender road-worn 50s Tribute, which is not an expensive guitar. You can probably get one for $800 at one of the big box guitar stores. I may be underestimating that a little bit, but I think that's about right. Anywhere between $800 and $900 for this thing. And it turns out that it's a very good basic guitar. It's made in Mexico. It's got nitrocellulose lacquer on it. It's got basically 50s type parts, and I didn't really change anything on this guitar except the bridge saddles. It came with some stainless steel ones or metal ones of some kind. Anyway, I went and got what I do on all my guitars, Glendale compensated brass. Glendale compensated brass are my favorite sounding ones. They're very in tune and I like the way they sound. So that's a $50 improvement. Other than that, the guitar is pretty much, with the exception of cutting the nut down a little bit, which if you have some skills, you can do that yourself, or if you take it to somebody, it's not a very expensive bit. So this is a really not an unattainable guitar for somebody who's just wanting to add a Telecaster sound to their arsenal, or can't afford, you know, a $2,000 or $3,000 custom shop something or other. So the first thing I do is set it up correctly. You know, straighten the neck out. I like my neck very straight. So I take the truss rod, which is accessible here, and I really tighten it up so that when I press the strings down at the 1st and say 20th fret, the string really lays pretty much right down on the fret with just a tiny little bit of gap. Of course, I'm not playing very hard with this, so if you have a heavier touch, then you have to consider that. So straight neck, first of all. I like round polished frets. Of course, they don't stay that way as you use them, but I like them to start out that way. The frets on this guitar were pretty good. And I like my action low. I usually flatten the center barrel a little bit more than, say, the luthier might put it to match the radius. I like the center two strings to be just a little closer. And then I put a set of 12 to 54. This set is made by Diodario. Here, let me show you what it looks like. It's this set right here. Not an advertisement for Diodario. I'm not an endorsee of their product, but I use them. This is EXL 145. The gauges are 12, 16, 20 plain, 32, 42, 54, and that, it seems to be pretty good. I used to take their 12 to 54 set and swap out the G, and now they've been making this one with a little bit heavier E string, and it works out pretty nicely. So the reason I use those heavier strings is because, you know, I'm playing jazz. I'm not bending strings very much, although it's not impossible to do so. But because I want to have this pickup really likes to have more metal moving the molecules around, so it responds better. It's the best way to make a Telecaster sound bigger and less like a banjo is to put heavier strings on it. And that's just the way it goes. I know that's not for everybody, but these strings are not terribly heavy, 12 through 54. And then the final thing you may have noticed is that I'm tuned down 1/2 step. Now, I can do this for a solo guitar gig. If I were playing with a band, I would just take the same setup and tune it up to standard E standard. It just feels a little softer for my left hand this way, and slightly deeper, gives more resonance, makes the guitar sound a little bigger. Now, the neck pickup on this guitar has a little high, sort of bright end. Now this is just a standard neck pickup that comes in this guitar, and I don't really recall what it is, but I think it's one of their regular, pickups from Fender. I have the volume about maybe 5% lower than full on. So here it is full on, and then I take it down just a little bit. And what that does is it tends to take off a little bit of that high-end sheen without making it sound boxy or woofy. And you can then, play around with the tone control as well. And then the other component that I have is I use tube amplifiers for the most part. I will use a solid state amplifier from time to time if necessary. There are some good ones out there. I like the Ethos amplifier. Quilter makes a pretty good one. I don't think the Telecasters sound good through the solid state amps that are generally thought of as jazz guitar amps that are voiced more for an archtop guitar. I played through them and I tend to think that the Tele sounds a little bit lacking through them. But right now I'm playing through Fender Princeton Reverb with a little bit of reverb on it. The bass is about straight up and down, and the treble is turned down quite low. The reason I think is that this amplifier has a replacement speaker, a Weber, that is quite a bright speaker. So I just roll off the treble, and I may change that speaker out and put a slightly darker or more neutral speaker in there, I should say. Volume is not very high right now because I'm playing indoors and not for an audience, except for you good people, of course. But recording wise, it doesn't take a loud amplifier. That's pretty much it. Of course, when you do that, then the middle position sounds like this. Kind of thing, and the back pickup sounds like it normally does. I've had fun rolling the tone back quite far on the rear pickup. Not quite that far, about here. It's a nice warm sound. That's the rear pickup. Now, I'm not a big fan of the neck pickup with the tone rolled all the way off, sort of muffly dark sounds often associated with particular jazz guitar players, certain jazz guitar players. Certainly not all of them by any means, but I'm not a fan of that sound. I like a little bit of richness in the harmonic content, which includes the high end, but I like the high end to be smooth and warm sounding, creamy sounding. I don't think you can get that sound just by severely rolling off all the highs. And then of course I play with my fingers, and that also helps to keep things warm. I don't use nails, so when you hear the note, so a fair amount of flesh has come in contact with that string. My idea is that you know, when Wes Montgomery played with his thumb, he got this big fat pad of his thumb on there, but then his tone was often, in terms of what the amplifier was set at, it was relatively bright. He didn't have that sort of dark, wolfy tone, but he got a big fat sound out of the note because he put so much flesh onto it, and the attack transient on the note was rather large. So I try and emulate, you know, that sort of signature, like getting a lot of flesh on the notes and really drawing them out of the guitar rather than just kind of hitting at them from a distance. It does sound okay with a pick. If I play something like this. So you can use it. You can do nicely with a pick with this type of a setup as well. Okay, thank you for indulging me. I enjoy sharing information with my Facebook friends and YouTube people about, you know, the demystifying maybe a little bit this great American Telecaster guitar, and